everybody, welcome to your hamstring release class. In this class we're going to target the back of the thighs, and we'll be doing a little bit of hatha, a little bit of gentle flow, working with straight leg standing postures. So if you need to bend your knees, but we're trying to work towards straightening those legs, because that's the only time the hamstrings can truly release. We're going to start off with a little bit of myofascial release. If you don't have tools, I'm going to use a roller and a ball. If you don't have tools, feel free to bypass. Even if you have a ball, you'll be fine, but you could just forward it if you don't have any and just go to the yoga part. So we'll start our class today standing up, and we're going to work with a ball. So if you take your ball, and it doesn't want to be too hard. A tennis ball is great, you don't want a golf ball kind of thing. And let us start off in the center of the foot, and we're just going to press on and release. So lean forward and release back. And here we're doing a technique called ischemic pressure or flushing, and this is going to hydrate the fascia. So why are we working on the soles of the feet? Okay, move to your big toe mound here and continue forward and back. So why are we working on the sole of the feet? Well, the plantar fascia on the sole of the feet is connected via the SBL, or the superficial back line, up through the back, the whole of the back of the body, and very much connected to the calves and the hamstrings. Okay, center of the foot, forward and back. And people with tight hamstrings often have tight plantar fascia. It's part of the whole tension pattern where people hold their tension. We all hold it in different areas of the body. And so just by releasing the soles of the feet, this will help you release through the back of the legs as well. So little toe mound, forward and back. And then of course you can decide your compression here, so how deep, how much weight you want to put on your ball as you move forward and back. Nice and generous with yourself. Okay, little toe mound, so between your outer heel and little toe, so forward and back. Okay, keep going, nice. And then big toe mound, or sorry, inner arch, yeah. Now be gentle here, especially if you have flat arches, be a little bit more gentle. So always just feeling it, don't just go to a default compression, pressure, but just always feeling in and backing off where need be. And then just at the top of the heel, so if you go to the calcaneus, the heel, and then roll forward. So it's just at the front of the heel. I'll do it from the side so you can see better. So you're not right back here, but just forward a little bit, somewhere between the back of the heel and the center of the foot. And then just pressing here. Good. And then over to the left side. So all of these points, I'm not going to go through them now, but they all correspond also through reflexology up through the meridians and channels in the body, affecting not only our fascial body and different parts, even up to our neck and our shoulders, but also may stimulate fascial flows towards the organs. Okay, so big toe mound, forward and back. And so you might find as you're doing this organically, you feel like you're kind of going, as you feel into the release, you might find yourself like moving your head or feeling even some connection up into the shoulders. And this is neuroflossing. It basically works with the nerve channels that move through the body. Okay, center. So between the second and third toe, forward and back. Good, and then just below the pinky. Good, and little toe mound between the pinky and the outer heel. So here here with the outer toe mound, we actually connect up through the lateral line. So again, there's a fascial connection. And with our, in relation to our hamstrings, our most lateral hamstring, or bicep femoris, is actually on the lateral chain. And that's often the hamstring that, one of the hamstrings that can be creating issues for people, because it's connected to the IT band. And so when it can adhere to the IT, connecting things like hip pain, patellofemoral tracking in the knee, etc. Okay, inner arch. So as we're here, I'll just talk a little bit about the hamstrings. We have a couple more minutes on this, or 1 more minute on the feet. So we have 3 hamstrings running down the back of the thigh. So we have the outermost, your bicep femoris, the one in the middle, semi-membranosus, and the, semi-tendinosus, excuse me, and then the medial one here, semi-membranosus, so that's your innermost. And so now if you go to the front of the heel again, and it's usually the lateral ones, which are the bicep femoris and the semi-membranosus, that are the issues. And also the another muscle that I'll mention here is called the adductor magnus. It's officially an inner thigh muscle, but it's also called, it has a nickname as the 4th hamstring, because it also attaches, like the other 3 hamstrings, it attaches right up onto your sit bone, your ischial tuberosity. And it runs back, it's at the back of the medial compartment, yeah, so the back of the inner thigh. So it connects into the hamstrings fascially, and so it can also be very tight for them. Okay, great, nice. So come off your ball and then just stand, weight the triangle of the feet, big toe mound and toe mound center heel. And just feel here, with the plantar fascia release, you might feel, a nice resiliency, a nice bounce between the weight of your body on the earth and the bounce back up through the body, naturally into your core. Okay, so from here, take the hands to the waist. Inhale, lengthen up. Pull your kneecaps up into your quads. Keep those quads active, and then moving from your hip bone or your sit bone, sticking the bum out and diving down from the hips, taking your hands to your shins and or onto the ground if you can reach. Inhale, look up, lengthen through the spine, and exhale, bend. So you'll notice as you look up, inhale, looking up, lengthen, that you want to work with a flat back. So again, if you need to, take your hands onto your shins so you can stay, and I'm just going to tie my hair, to really get that good flat back. So if you are going, if your hamstrings are really tight and you're down here and you're like, oh yeah, I'm looking up, but you're still really rounded or your knees are bending, for this time, try and take your hands closer and really get the feeling of anterior tilt, so sticking the bum out and lengthening through the spine. And then if you can take that to the ground or hands on bricks, even better. And then just focus here, just a little bit on your tilt. Inhale, lift into sit bones, and exhale, curl. Inhale, lift. Exhale, curl. On those curls, bend the knees if you wish. Inhale, but then make sure you extend them again. On your inhales, exhale. Inhale. Exhale. So what you're realizing here, that if, and you probably know it already, but just to put it into words, and you could keep going as I talk, is that when the hamstrings are tight and we're in this forward fold, whether that be a standing forward fold, a seated forward fold, or a seated forward fold, now when the hamstrings are tight, we compensate by rounding the spine, yeah? When we round the spine, we get less sensation, and yet that's not good for our posture. That rounded spine somatically isn't good either. It's connected in with depression, it's connected with feeling of compression in the body as well. And it closes off the diaphragm and our breath and whatnot. So we want to maintain the length of the spine, but we can only do that when our hamstrings are open. Okay, so you can come now to the ground. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to the truest hamstring stretch, which is Supta Padangusthasana. And that will be, the reason why this is the truest hamstring stretch is because your spine cannot round, because your spine is on the ground. Okay, so lying on your back, take your belt if you're going to use one. Hug your right knee into your chest, Upanasana. Focus on your grounding leg, your base leg, which is your left leg. Roll it into the midline, weight on the center heel. Feel the length moving through the inner seam of the leg, out through the big toe mound and inner heel. And activate your left quads. Take your belt around the ball of the sole of the foot and extend your right leg up. Now, try to have work with a straight knee. Even if your foot is back at, you might make it the foot over the hip, that would be fab. But if you need to have it here, like at 45, that's your range. So go to your range where you can work with a straight knee. And put a percentage, go to a range where you can feel a sense of ease, yeah? And where you can breathe, notice that your breathing is relaxed, that you are not in the sensation, but you're in a place of witness. So we can witness sensation from a place of peace and calm. Yeah, and then from there, challenge yourself. So maybe bring the foot higher, or maybe walk your hands higher up your belt. And notice how the increased sensation how that moves through your body. Does your breath become shorter? Does your mind contract? Does your mind out of the sensation in the body? Or can your mind stay flowing into the awareness, whether it be in the calf or the hamstring? Can you maintain a place of witness in the mind, so the mind isn't collapsed into the sensation, it's flowing in, but it's witnessing at the same time. So the mind is nice and calm as it connects with the sensation. And then whatever your range is here, start to fire up your quadriceps on your right thigh. And that works with the dual action, the active stretching through the nervous system, so where hugging the hamstrings to release. So as the quads engage, your hamstrings start to release. So you're grabbing, and if there's tension here, the firing up of your quads can also help you grab the stretch. So it's like, it's like if you're here and you're feeling the pain, and you shouldn't be in pain, but even acute sensation, you're in the back seat of the bus, right? You're like, oh, this is awful, someone put me in the car, I don't like this. It's like, you're like a victim. Where when you start to engage your quads, it's like, okay, I'm in the front seat, I'm driving this, I got this. Yeah, so you've activated the stretch and you've taken it into a place of control. Take your right leg out to the side. Keep your left hip grounded. Lengthen through the inner seam of the right leg, all the way out through the big toe mound and inner heel. And you can stay here in a passive stretch, or if you wish, you can fire up the right glute a little bit, helping the right inner groins to release. Maybe even contract the right outer thigh a little bit to help the right inner thigh to release. And again, whether you're working with passive or active stretching, all the time, going to the edge of acute sensation. So you're challenging yourself. You have to go into that area of challenge and maintain the still focus. This is where the change occurs. Then inhale the leg up and exhale, release it down. Good. Inhale the left leg up. I will bend it in Upanasana and bring your attention to your base leg. Roll the right leg into the midline, extend out to your right inner heel and big toe mound. Firming up your right quadriceps to stabilize your leg into your hips. Extend the left leg up, grab your belt. And again, when you're working on a nice easy range where you can enjoy the sensation, and then millimeter by millimeter increasing your range, keeping the tension in your base leg as you move your left toes closer towards your head. Noticing your response. It's all in how we build up the stretch tolerance, is all in our response to sensation is our mental approach. Does the mind retract from sensation? Can you keep your mind flowing into the sensation? Maintain the sense of calm and ease. And maybe here again, grabbing it, yeah, so sitting and popping into the front seat of your car as you fire up your left quads, helping your right hamstrings to release. Always working at a range of movement where you feel a sense, enough ease that you can keep the mind calm. So when the mind is going bonkers, going to go, if you're going into that no pain, no gain, you're actually just creating more tension. And we don't want that. So just floating around the edges of those tensions and breathing in. Dorsiflexing the foot, pulling the toes down towards the knee to help open the calf as well, which of course is fascially connected to the back of the leg. And we're holding this long enough to go into the deep fascia. Yeah, I know I did a lot of talking on the first side, so another couple of breaths here. So just also this long holding is required. Those of you working with tight hamstrings, it really is about hanging out in these poses a little bit more. Okay, anchor down through your right hip, take the left leg out to the side. There's two ways of opening the hamstrings. One is get hot and sweaty and repeat the straight leg standing poses over and over again, using the heat to open and melt. That's also very effective. And the other way is to work with them just holding, yes, just staying here for longer. Of course, this way is far more relaxing. And then inhale your left leg up and left leg down, left foot meets right. Nice. Hug both knees in. Okay, so next pose we're going to do is a happy baby. And happy baby is excellent for releasing, even though it's a hip opener, it really works on your hamstrings. So you can bend your right knee, and in this first one, we're going to do two in this class. In this first one, feel free to bend up your left knee and really focus on your line of your right heel over your right knee. And work also on the triangle of your right foot. So there's a tendency here to sickle your right foot, contracting the right glutes. So that's when the foot inverts towards the midline. So extend up to your big toe, mountain inner heel. And you can magnetize the lateral edge of your right foot into your right hand. So press the foot into the right hand and the hand back into the foot as you bring your right knee closer to the ground, or even onto the ground if you can. And getting the positioning of the foot here is really going to set up how your femur articulates into the hip. And so it can really help you avoid compression, but also help you balance the muscles of your hip, your internal and external hip rotator muscles, to create a weight-bearing pelvis. And this is especially important if there's any hip pain or whatnot, because this often can be exacerbated by muscle imbalance. Breathing here. take your right foot down to your left. Okay, other side, bend the left leg up. And you may, of course, notice that one is tighter than the other. And that's very common. It's like having one hip tighter than the other. You have your strong leg and your bendy leg. Maybe you have an injury on one side or whatnot. So just feeling in. And again, paying attention to your left foot position. Usually, as I said, when the foot sickles, the glute is a little bit engaged. It doesn't feel normal to people. People say to me all the time, oh, my hip, isn't like that, or I've got extremely rotated hip. So do I. That's why I have to work on getting the extension into the big toe mountain and the inner heel. My hips don't want to naturally do that, but it does create a lot of space around the acetabulum, so that it is where the top of the femur connects into that hip socket. Good, and then gently release. So take both knees are wide to the edge of your mat. I'm going widthways now just for your visual. And you can just windscreen wiper the legs. And then if you have a foam roller, actually even a hard foam roller would be fine for this. I use a nice soft one, but any foam roller would be great. And you just put the roller at the top of the hamstrings, and you can just start to make these scissoring movements with the legs, keeping it nice and slow. So sweeping the legs in and out. So what we're doing here is we're creating cross friction. So as the hamstrings run down the length of the leg, this sweeping widthways is going to help remove adhesions between the muscles so they can glide over each other better. And then if you wish, you could take your roller down into the belly of the muscle, just halfway down, and continue. And of course, if you do have a big imbalance, I would actually recommend that, let's say, for example, your right is more open, that you just work with your left. If, the idea is to really spend it with hamstrings, because they are, if there is an imbalance between right and left, it's important to neutralize that because they help to stabilize the pelvis. So if one hamstring is a lot tighter than the other, it will be pulling and tugging that pelvis under, which is not very good, because you'll have you could create a lateral pelvic tilt. Okay, very nice. So from here, coming up, you probably haven't spent as much time lying on your back doing that pose before, but as I said, it's good to spend time when the hamstrings are tight to ease them out. So making your way to a downward dog and pedal it out. And some of you will need to work with bent knees in your downward dog if the hamstrings are very tight. So we're going to just do a little bit of working with that. So coming to stop pedaling and coming to your regular downward dog. And here we're going to focus on the upward tilt of the pelvis. So we're going back to that lengthening through the spine, sticking the bum out action, creating more tension through the back of the leg. Yeah? Okay, so if they're very, very tight in a regular yoga class, you could bend your knees just to give you that spinal extension and helping you open up the posterior hip, and that's fab. And in this one, so you can do that now, bend the knees, get all the length. You can still connect into your core, but getting all the length into your spine, getting a really good tilt of the pelvis. And now start to keep your hips as high as they need, heels as high as they need to be, and re-extend your legs straight. And then if you can, maintain that upward tilt of the pelvis and drop your heels to the ground. And then if you can, if your heels are on the ground, can you take your toes off the ground? So you're really firing up your quads, dropping down into your heels and lifting up into your sit bones at the same time. Good. So from here, look forward towards your thumbs and walk your feet in. Feet are hip width. Pop up onto fingertips again. Inhale, heart forward. And exhale, bow. So notice, we'll keep lengthening and bowing. And notice here any increase in your range compared to the beginning at the beginning of the class in your Uttanasana. Has it improved? I'm betting you are feeling some release. Good. And then rooting down into your big toe mat. Inhale, reach the arms overhead. And exhale, take your hands back down to your heart. Okay. So from here, we're going to do just a few straight leg standing postures. You can stand at the front of your mat. And then step your left leg back, taking your left toes out to the long side of your mat. Look down, heels are in line, feet are parallel. Good, and perpendicular. Good, and we'll take a triangle pose. So inhale, reach the arms out. And exhale, bend over the right leg, keeping your quads active to help the hamstrings to release. Maintain your shoulders in line with your hips. Gripping the feet slightly. Drawing the outer right hip back. Maintaining all the length through the spine. And then inhale, come up. Exhale, square the right foot to match the left and take the hands to the waist. Look down to the feet, make sure the outer edges of the feet are parallel with the mat. Roll the upper thighs in, so right up at the hip, rolling them in to help you separate the sit bones and stick the bum out. And moving from your sit bones, take your forward fold. Keep your quads active, so just go halfway. Quads are active, and you're going to feel those hamstrings start to release, or actually what's happening now is they're eccentrically contracting because they have the load of your trunk. And then very gently place your hands onto the ground. Walk your hands back in line with the toes. Inhale, heart forward. Exhale, bow your head down. Shift your weight forward over the front of the feet as you lift up into your sit bones. Keep your quads active. And then lengthen up, inhale. Exhale, take the hands to the waist. Inhale, coming up. And exhale, step back to the front of the mat. Inhale, step your right foot out. Again, take your feet perpendicular, parallel, heels in line. Good, root down into the feet, draw up in the legs, strong quads, lengthen through the spine, shoulders in line with the hips. And lean down over your left leg. Keep your quadriceps active. Pulling into the core. Chest nice and open. Maybe looking up to the top hand. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, take the left foot, matching it to the right, hands to the waist. Roll the upper thighs in, open the sit bones. And again, slowly, as you engage your quads, feel your hamstrings. They're still contracting, but as they lengthen to control the lowering of your trunk down. Take your hands onto the ground, walk them back in line with your toes. Inhale, looking up, get that lift into the sit bones. Exhale, bowing down. Lengthen up, inhale. Exhale, hands to waist. Inhale, coming up. Turn back towards the front of the mat and step your right foot forward to the left. Good. Okay, so from here we're going to take half moon pose, and you have the option to do it against the wall. In fact, I'm going to do it against the wall, and even though you can do it freestanding, unless it's like perfect and you're looking up the hand, I actually think you could use a wall today, because we're going to stay in it. We'll do about 15 breaths each side, and in this class we're going to focus more on the alignment than the balance, and it just by taking the balance out. So if your hands, it'll help you get your line and get that hamstring release. So if you can do a tripod with that flat back, so getting the bum sticking out here, then you don't need blocks. But if in this position, in this tripod, hands under shoulders, feet together, under hips, if you're like this, compensating for the hamstrings being tight, then you need to raise up your bricks so you can get that flat back. Okay, so after you get your bricks according, and then take one leg to the wall, get your legs length, and turn around. Good. From here, take your tripod, keeping the right foot to the ground, and take the left leg up onto the wall in line with the hip. So you can look back to that left foot. Your right hand is wide of your right foot, right thumb in line with right big toe, and take your left leg up, left arm up even. Look up to the left hand. Keep drawing your outer right hip back, pinning the navel, knitting the ribs, and breathe. Quads are active. Ten more breaths. Five more. Squeezing the right glute and outer right thigh. Circle the left hand down and lower the left foot. Good. And you can go straight in to the other side. Rather than turn my back to you, I'm just going to pretend I have a wall. So take your tripod and thumbs in line with little toes, on hands under shoulders. Lift your right leg up in line with the hip. Draw the outer left hip back. Make sure the inner line of your left foot is straight. Circle the right hand up. Work with straight knees. Tailbone points to the back heel, so slightly tucked in the pelvis. Knees are straight, quads are active. 10 more breaths. Five more. And circle the right hand down and take the right foot to the ground. Walk the hands back, bow down over both legs.
If you wish, you can walk it out or just hang. Lengthen up, inhale, and come up to standing. Good. We're going to go back down into a forward fold, but I just thought it might be nice just to come out and give your hamstrings a little rest. So yeah, that last pose, half moon, really great pose to align the femur, pelvis, and the spine. So there the bones, three major bony areas that need to articulate functionally for healthy movement patterns, and again can muscle imbalances due to incorrect posture or somatic imbalances related to our emotional states can create structural imbalances in the bone, in the skeletal body. So some of you may have, even on one leg or on the other leg, it's one of the reasons I love it so much, this pose, that last pose, is that it works on strength and flexibility at the same time, and strengthens our end range, or fairly good open range. So in that way it's great. Really helps to align everything. Okay, so we're now going to go back to another standing forward fold, and I think we're nice and open for this. It should be no problem, but those if you have really chronic tight hamstrings, do be aware that you just want to work gently. So hands to the waist, inhale, lengthen up. Exhale, forward fold. Take the hands to the ground. Now from here, I want you to give yourself a generous bend of your knees, and you'll find more length creeping into the lower back, and a great feeling of sticking your bum out. And if it's not, if you're still tucking under, going no, there can be a somatic fear pattern there, or a modesty or a sexual thing as well, like a kind of a trying to hide this part of ourselves. So it's like no one's looking, so just stick that bum out, yeah? It's like, get nice and bummy. Good. And then from here, maintain that and take your hands around the back of the knees, and you can grab hold of the elbows. Now if it's too much to grab hold of the elbows, you can grab hold of the wrists, but if you can, grab hold of the elbows. So here your head is quite low to do that, and you might need to bend your knees more to grab hold closer to the elbow, and you'll notice your front ribs are on your thighs. So from here, we're going to try and straighten the legs and maintain the rib connection onto the thighs. So maintain that compression as you extend your legs straight. So what will happen is you'll want to come up away and lose that compression. So rather than lose the compression of your front body onto your thigh, just work with bent knees if you have to. So the legs don't have to be completely straight in this one. We prioritize the compression and gradually start to extend the knees straight. And as we do that, we'll be engaging our quads more and more, sensing and feeling into their hamstrings as we release, and really rolling the upper thighs in. Opening the sit bones. Now that for a lot of people is major, getting the upper thighs rolling in, because when do they roll out, you're activating your glutes. Your glutes are fascially connected to your hamstrings. And so when you roll the upper thighs in, you can stay. This is going to release the glutes, which will help the top of your hamstrings at the tendon also release. And when the tendinous area of the hamstring releases, that's going to release through the rest of the muscle. Okay, so you can slowly come up. Good. And just walk it out. Nice little shake of the hips. You can do a little dance. I'm being silly. Okay. So now we're going to take a block or a ball. And I'm going to take a ball. It's my new thing, balls. Brick is fine. But something to put in between your thighs. Okay. So a ball or a brick in between your thighs, and you're mashing it. Well, I wouldn't mash with the brick because they're harder, but like with the ball, I love the balls. You can really down here go. If you have any anger hidden down here in your hips, that might help because you really want to squeeze that ball. So you can think of something you're frustrated, and maybe not. You don't want to pull a hamstring, but you really want to get a good pull of the ball. I'm starting to get giddy now. I don't know. Maybe it's the hamstring release. Okay, so from squeezing your block or your ball, start to engage your quads as well. And I'd like you to, before we go forward, squeeze the front of your ball or brick more than the back. So notice when you squeeze the back, what happens? Your glutes contract in towards each other, your anal sphincter muscles contract, your hamstrings far up, yeah? But as you squeeze the front of your ball or brick, your sit bones broaden, your glutes and hamstrings begin to release. Now there's a vulnerability in that. And I'll talk about that in the next pose. Yeah, so there's a kind of like, I don't like that. I don't know why. I want to keep it closed, yeah? That's normal. But just trust here. Trust yourself. You don't have to trust anyone else. You're just trusting yourself. That yoga is the journey of the self, through the self, to the self. So roll those front of the upper thighs in. Allow your sit bones to open, your hamstrings to lengthen and start to tip forward. Now keep squeezing your brick. Keep squeeze. Now it's really active. The inner thighs are really active.
Really active, and bend down into your full range. And even when you're here, keep squeezing. I'm actually narrowing my feet just to get a better squeeze. And you'll really feel now the back of the legs, where they connect to the inner thighs, all the way up to the sit bones, really start to open. Now pull up on those quads. Allow the front body to dangle, head be heavy. A few more breaths.
And then inhale, come up. Good. So that's a really good trick for helping the back of the thighs to open up, is using the brick in between the legs. We're not working with reciprocal inhibition or active stretching here. I mean, for sure we fired up the quad to release the hamstring, but we were working more synergistically, yeah? So by engaging those inner thighs, we create internal leg rotation, which releases the glutes, and then that works down the train through the hamstrings. So yeah, it's very clever. Okay, so let's take this to a forward fold. So come to sit. Actually, why don't you from here, from feet hip width, lower down into malasana, into a squat. If you need to bring your heels off the ground, you can. And some of that, sometimes one of the reasons people find malasana hard is actually the posterior hip and the connection into the hamstring. So this should feel nice and open now. If you're up on your toes, that's absolutely fine. So what is it? What is that vulnerable feeling of rolling the upper thighs in and separating the sit bones and releasing the glutes? Yeah, like why can that make us feel all kind of open and vulnerable and fluffy in a way? Well, it's because of, you can sit on your bum and take a Baddha Konasana with me. It's because the back of the hamstrings, well, what is their function? It's to bend the knees. That's their primary function. But it's to, like somatically, it would be preparing us to flight. Yeah, so if there's a threat, we will bend the knees and we get ready to run, or possibly to fight, but we'll still bend the knees to cower, to pull into our core, and we're either going to fight or flight in that state. So they can, when we are going through a lot of stress, and especially if we're feeling threatened, even just by stress and pressure, or or threatened by other things, we can have also an emotional holding through the back of the thighs as well. And so when we release them, there's a sense of disarmoring. Yeah, that's actually what we're doing. We're actually taking that fight-flight response down by releasing those muscles. And then also, it's not just the hamstrings, it's the actual anal sphincter muscle and the separating of the sit bones. Now that, I mean, for sure possibly could be related to sexual trauma, but not even though it's like the whole, that like area of the pelvis. And it's just, there's again another somatic expression of literally just tucking our tail between our legs. So it's a fear-based response to squeeze the back of the bum there and squeeze the glutes and tuck under, relating to any kind of fear, you know. So it could be, and it's often like repressed fear, stuff you want to keep down, yeah. So fear and anxiety. So that there are also reasons why people can have chronic tightness in this area. So this is great. Not only are we are starting to work our postural patterns, but bringing more awareness. The journey of transformation starts with awareness. And then as we find the courage to change the posture and release the fascia, holding those postural somatic imprints, we reset the mind, we reset the nervous system out of the stress and trauma response. Of course, we need a bit, you know, they're healthy responses, but we just don't want to get stuck in them. We just need to, you know, have them there for when there is real threat, but not be living in threat, and just finding the space, which we'll do now in the next few breaths, to just really enjoy that sense of spaciousness moving through the legs and the hips, how that moves through our breath and our mind. Allowing ourselves to de-armor, to truly relax and within ourselves and trust ourselves. Trusting our practice also. To help us connect into the deeper layers beyond these outer expressions of ourselves that relate to the world around us. Into the deeper core of who we are. You can blink your eyes open, and we'll just do a little bit more, not too much, but we'll take this into a seated forward bend. So again, it's like that bum sticking out, really important here. So if you're a tucker, you can use your hands to take the flesh of the sit bones out and back. Or you could prop yourself on a block, a low block, and tip forward on it to have a feeling of sticking the bum out, getting length through the lower back as you roll your thighs into the midline. And then from here you can spider your hands forward towards your feet, compressing your belly to your thigh, keeping your quads active so you're still in the front seat of your car, pulling the little toes back towards the outer knees, nose to toes. Make sure you're not looking down to your knees, somatically going into depressive states and reinforcing depression in your nervous system and via your fascia. Coming out of that, getting the lift of the spine, even if you're up on fingertips, maintain that length as you bring the nose towards the toes. Maybe you can bring your elbows to the ground for an advanced expression. And then as you are lowering into it completely, so from here, if you can bring your elbows to the ground only, we'll say, then you can start to lower your head. But if your elbows are off the ground, stay with nose to toes. We're going to do 15 breaths from here. And then very slowly come up. Very nice. One more forward bend. take your legs wide into a V for Upavista Konasana and engage your quads. Yeah. So a lot of the time with students, people find it hard. People can kind of get here, and then the back starts to round again. So it really does come to, even though the tension is expressing itself through the spinal flexion, it is all to do with here. And here we're very in our adductor magnus, because we want to tip forward as we extend through the inner seam of the legs out, engaging the quads. So for sure it is hamstrings, but we also tip right up into the adductor line here. And so you want to have a feeling of the pubis, even here, take your one hand to your lumbar, your sacrum, the other hand to your pubis, and tip that front hand down and arch your lower back. Yeah. So let's just do this for a few times. So hands here, so inhale, tip forward, pelvis forward, exhale back. So just moving from the pelvis, so using your pelvic floor muscles, your erector spinae and in the lower back as you tip forward. So there's a bit of a cat-cow action moving through the pelvis and spine. And then if you feel ready, you can continue doing that, or if you feel ready, you can drop to your elbows if that's available, or just hold statically, or maybe even bring chest to the ground. And breathing, just focusing on long exhales. Good, and when you're ready, you can slowly come back up. Okay, so you can lie on your back for Shavasana and take a rest. If you want, you can put something under your knees. But it might be nice just to knot and keep the legs straight. You've worked so hard to get that extension. And bring your awareness down into your body, all the way down to the tips of your toes. Feeling the energy moving through your body, your natural bioenergy. Through your legs, through your pelvis, your hips, pelvic floor, through your lower back and belly. Whole lower body relaxed and open and energized. You may even feel, as we did a lower body class, that your lower body may feel more energized than your upper body. So as you sense and feel into the legs, notice where that brings your mind, that you're not going into fight or flight or energy connected with armoring, that as you sense and feel into your legs, your mind can open into a place of release and stillness, wellness. release of the lower legs also helps to reset the adrenals, as the adrenals can get very tugged into that fight flight response, straining our whole system. And this can help promote the immune system, so helping to restore the immune. So bringing that positive, restful, well energy from your lower body up through your upper body as you sense and feel into your upper back, your chest, your shoulders, your arms, your neck, your head. Your whole body. And then when you're ready, you can bend your knees up and roll up to a seat. Thank you for joining me for practice. Namaste.